top of the world, and now I'm living. And the good just gets better, keeps on giving. Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you stopping by. My special guest today is Stefanie Garcia, visual artist from voiceofdream.com. Hey, Stefanie.
Hey.
Good to see you again.
And good to see you as well.
Yeah, so Stefanie and I, we're always kind of cooking up some ideas and trying to see what's going on generally out there and what people are kind of looking for. And one of the things that we were talking about is the fact that everybody might be feeling a little bit stuck right now. And it really doesn't matter what personal year you're in or universal year you're in. Just sometimes we just can't get out of our own way. So basically, today's discussion is with regards to trusting the process and understanding that there are other things unfolding for us that we have yet to see, and yet we can get really impatient while we wait for it. I think we both
really impatient.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of 7 energy in my chart that says I don't do well with not knowing what's going on. Right?
Yeah. I think a lot of us want to have the control of knowing, what's around the corner, or at least have some control in the process. And sometimes it can be very hard to just go with the flow of it all.
Well, I think that's one of the things that really turned me on to numerology years ago was I just had a need to know, and once I figured out, I remember looking back onto my numerology chart, I started looking at a year that I had gone through several years before, and it was a complete crapshoot. Like, it was terrible. It was a real dark place. But when I looked at it, I realized, oh my gosh, I was just stuck for a small period of time. But at the time, I thought I was stuck forever,
Oh my gosh,
well,
yes.
Numerology provides such a great tool for us to be able to understand, if we are feeling a little stuck. Sometimes it's just a cyclical thing. Sometimes it's just the nature of who we are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pulled a card today because before we did this, and one of the cards that I pulled up talked about the fact that life is not linear. Life is cyclical.
Right.
And we have to move past this idea of thinking life, at least in my experience, has never been, it's never led me, nature doesn't lead you in a straight line.
Right.
Life doesn't lead you in a straight line. Yeah. So you'll go through things and it seems like it's way over here, or you're going through the thick of life and you don't know where it's leading, only for when you come back and look at it, there's so much more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true. I mean, the universe has a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I try to do when I'm doing readings for people is helping to understand what rhythm they're in, right? How to get in touch with that rhythm. Because for example, a personal year of 1, somebody's getting thrown forward, right? They got lots of energy being thrown forward, but in the year of 2, they're brought back and reined back in, right? So we have to understand where we are. So if you happen to be in a year that you're kind of reined back, it helps to explain a cyclical reason why you're feeling stuck.
Mm-hmm. I always like to remember, life has seasons, nature has seasons. So, in the summertime, we're out there, we're exploring, we're expressing ourselves. And then in the fall, we kind of feel this pullback. And then when winter comes along, it's really, really slow. And we have to remember that spring is coming.
Right.
That can be hard. Sometimes when things are in your life just moving so incredibly slowly, it helps to remember that spring's going to come.
I always think it's amazing that the trees and the leaves and the grass and all that stuff, they don't worry about anything. They don't think about, gosh, what happens if we don't get enough water? What happens if we don't get enough sun? They don't think about anything. They just trust in the process, right?
Exactly.
Yes, and they just keep renewing themselves, and they just go with the flow. If there's a drought, well, they stop growing for a little while. If there's lots of water, well, they grow quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
But nature doesn't have an ego, so it's not sitting there wondering and thinking and worrying and
there's an ebb and flow. There's an ebb and flow to life. And I think if we just keep looking at our window, we're constantly being reminded that there's an ebb and flow. There's constant, that nature never rushes, yet everything gets done. And that's something when I'm going, and I have to remind myself just 2 days ago, let's say, was it 2 days ago or just a day ago? Even for myself, just to remind I just was feeling like things are moving too slow. I caught myself looking at other people and comparing myself with their process and how far down the road they were. And then again, it got to me thinking, well, when is it going to be my time? Different things like that, the stuff that plays in our minds.
Yes.
And I had to remind myself, you know what? Nature never rushes, and yet everything gets done. It's always been a mantra of mine to remember that.
Right. No, that's a very good one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So true. I mean, I think of things like my horse. If it's going to be a really heavy winter, she grows a heavier coat and she starts earlier. So it's just like she just intuitively knows that that's what's going on. She's not questioning. Not asking about it. She just goes, oh, well, feeling kind of cold, I better get the coat on, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think
animals have that instinct, but as humans, man, we've got that mind that questions it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we do definitely get stuck on our
We
way.
torture ourselves. It's amazing how much we torture ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, can I add something though?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
One of the things that I've noticed is it's good. I'm constantly trying to remind myself to just follow the flow and trust the flow. Constantly trying to remind myself of that. But even in trying to follow the flow and follow my creative juices wherever they take me. Just trying to trust that, my mind kicks on and goes, yeah, but you should be doing something else. You should be getting something else done. This whole just follow the flow and easy, see where it goes, that doesn't work for everybody's mind. A lot of people get aggravated and irritated, and I have to catch myself in that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not that easy to just follow that natural flow.
But don't you find that most of us are kind of wired in such a way that, you know, as children, it's kind of implied that we should go on and get a better education, because if you don't have an education, you're not going to make the money. And if you don't make the money, you're going to be poor. And that would be an awful thing.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah. And it's that, it's almost like it's bred in us. It's a generational thing.
Yes.
Where we all, and there's nothing wrong with having the season of working hard or hustling or pushing yourself. Those are definitely times in your life you have to do that. Again, nature never does that. And I think as natural beings, we just never do that ourselves. We're not meant to do that. That's what leads to the burnout. That's what leads to just mentally not being able to handle it.
You know, I've been self-employed for many, many years. One time I was self-employed for, I would say 17 years with my own little clothing business. And it was a home-based business. And so, you know, being a home-based business, I had to work harder to get it exposed, to put it out there. So I was doing all kinds of stuff, pushing. And I was just focusing on, God, how am I going to feed my family? You know, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to get it out there? And I just keep pushing. And it was so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing a boulder uphill all the time. And yet when I think back on it, I had a very viable business, and it did really well for what it was, but I didn't see it that way. I only saw the struggle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh. Yeah. When I did
more of the struggle.
Yeah, I had 15 years as a photographer, just pushing, until I got to a point of just hitting the wall where I just couldn't push any further, because your own will can get you only so far.
That's right.
And then something else comes in, and that's what I had done for the last couple of years, was taking that time to take a step back, and getting back into being a visual artist now. I feel like since I've taken that step back to really nurture that side of myself, I feel like I'm coming back much stronger now.
Mm-hmm. You know, I realized within the last, I'm going to say probably 3 years. I mean, I was working a corporate normal job, right? And I was working my woo-woo job, as some people will call it, working very hard so that I could work full-time in this area, because that's what I wanted to do. But again, I was wired to believe that I had to do Facebook ads, and I had to push on the internet, and I had to do everything I could to put myself in front of people's faces, because it was really competitive out there. And I mean, you gotta, you know, if you're gonna be successful, you gotta put your face in front of everybody. And I was just like, push. And I remember sitting back one afternoon going, you know what? Like, I am not that successful. You know, I am in comparison to the amount of energy and effort I'm putting into this. You know, isn't it that we're supposed to put all the energy, attention, and focus into making it happen, and then, you know, then it will happen? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes the whole movie, The Secret, kind of failed us in that way in some respects. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do believe in the law of attraction, but you know, I was wired to believe that I had to keep pushing my business, push, and I would be successful eventually, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't until I took all the energy, attention, and focus away from, I've got to survive, you know, I've got to pay my bills, I got to, oh my God, when's the next reading going to come? When I finally dropped that and finally said, fine, I surrender. I'm trusting in the process that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because I know in my heart of hearts I'm supposed to be a numerologist. But you're not throwing me a crumb here, guys. Just like, you know, shake it up. And when I finally got away from that, and I took all that energy, attention, and focus, and I put it into my YouTube channel, 178 videos later, it's a lot of creativity, and just gave the information to people, that's when my business came together. That's when I discovered my success. And now I don't even think about it, right?
Yeah, I have very similar experience, just doing my work now this way. there's a flow to it, and it just comes naturally. And I feel like I use a lot less energy than I did before.
Yeah.
Feels good. And with far much better results. And that was what I was going to say. I was going to ask you, what's the difference in how you feel on one of the other? The one where you had to push versus the one where you're just kind of going with the flow of it. It's almost like night and day.
Oh, well, one's full of fear, right? The push is always, it's always fear.
Fear-based, yeah, absolutely.
I was always afraid I wouldn't have enough. I always did have enough. I always did have enough, but just barely. Like I would just be sitting on the surface there, right?
Yeah.
Boys, it was scary. I had some pretty scary moments back in the day, Anyway, it's...
let me add something else to that. Sorry, not to cut you off. Yeah. But I've had that same experience where it looks like you have just enough, but if you really look at it, you see that you have enough, but the fear is coming from what? Your mind interpreting that being enough. It could be literally enough. You have absolutely everything that you need. But your mind is saying, yeah, but it's not this number. Yeah, but it's not here. Or wait, we need to be having more because what ifs? And I think it's two of the things we're going to talk about, surrender and gratitude. It's one of the things we're going to talk about later when we talk about the emotions and how to cope with this. But I think it was really interesting that you brought that up now.
Well, it's also, I find, as I'm doing readings for people, it can be a cultural thing too. There are some cultures that expect so much from their kids that it's like, they could be making $100,000 a year, but if dad expects you to make 200,000, then 100,000 is not going to be enough. But 100,000 to a lot of people would be, a really good wage.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Well, and yes, and I feel like we're in a transition now.
Yeah.
We're in a transition from the old way that said, we had to keep pushing because we did. You had to just survive back in the day. Yeah. You did have to put in a lot of physical effort, but now we're moving into a time where that's not necessary anymore. We don't have to be putting in so much effort. But I think also there's a guilt that comes from feeling like, oh, we can, there's a guilt of we don't have to work so hard, but the generation before did.
Yes.
So, you're dealing with those feelings.
So one of the things that we've established that is a good place to start is to have a bit of compassion for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A lot of compassion for yourself. It's okay not to know.
Yeah, it is.
It's okay to feel the ways that you're doing. It's okay to feel these feelings. I think the most important thing when it comes to the compassion for yourself is really also to take the time to really sit with the feelings that you're feeling. When it comes to
I channeled something here, I don't know, probably 2 weeks ago, that was really quite revelational. Revolutionary?
That's okay. It's a word.
It shook me up because I realized it was true. What came to me was that what we have right now is perfection. It's divine perfection. Mm-hmm. If you believe in the divinity, if you believe that there's a higher source or whatever, what we have right now is perfection. If it's difficult, it's a lesson. And the lesson is a gift, right? The fact that we're able to be alive and well and be able to recognize a challenge means that we've been given a gift to overcome that challenge, right? Mm-hmm. So our obstacles are actually our gifts. But what I started to understand was that, the future is not tangible. We can't touch the future because it doesn't exist. It's not even there, right? It's not something you can reach out and touch. Now, I'm not saying don't plan for the future. I'm just saying don't be obsessed about waiting until the future to do anything. So what I'm saying is that what we have right now, what we know right now is all we need to know. What we have in our life right now is all we need to have. It's divine perfection. Okay. Mm-hmm. Even if you're struggling, it's still divine perfection. I mean, I've struggled, you've struggled, we've all struggled. We all still have struggles. But the thing that was really huge for me is I realized that as we try to compare ourselves to other people and the successes around us and whatnot, I started to realize that we can't do that for starters because we're divine perfection and they're in their divine perfection. And the people who are going to be attracted to us, we don't have to fear letting them down because they're not attracted to us based on what we don't know. They are attracted to us based on what we know right now in this moment. They're not attracted to us based on what we're going to know in the future or how much better we're going to be in the future or how much more intelligent or richer or whatever in the future. It's not why they're attracted to us. Their vibration is attracted to us because of our wholeness right now in divine perfection.
Absolutely, absolutely. And something to also remember is that life's a journey.
Yeah.
I think we're all there's this concept that we think we have to get to a destination. And it's really great that you pointed out this, that the future is not tangible. It's true. It's not a place for us to get to. It's a vision we have. And it's, at the end of the day, what we're doing is becoming it. It's a place to become.
That's right.
We don't actually get to a place. It kind of catches up to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember that life's a journey, then some of these ups and downs don't affect you as much. I want to say don't affect you as much. It's not that it doesn't. I mean, it's again, I had talked about earlier comparing myself to somebody else's journey.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to remind myself that person, their path is their path. They're meant to do what they're meant to do at this moment in their lives, in this moment in time. And mine, I have to keep having faith and trusting that mine will come when it's ready.
Right.
And we can always compare ourselves to where we want to be and think we're never going to get there. But we do have to have faith that we are going to get there. That's the feeling that can be a bit of a struggle.
I kind of think about life as cogs in the wheel. People will ask me, well, when am I going to meet my soulmate, sort of thing. And I look at the soulmates over here, and the wheel's going around, It's got teeth in the wheel. It's like a clock, and it's going round and round. And you've got one too, and it's going around. But until this person has evolved into what's right for you, and until you've done the same, you're not going to meet in the middle. You're not
yeah. Yeah, it's an evolution. It's an evolution.
Evolution is a great word for it. So, and I also think about, relationships, for example, in the form of a chess game. Well, when's my king going to show up? Well, the queen's got to move out first, right? So it's like a chess, it's strategic chess pieces moving around. Mm-hmm. And until this person becomes available to you, they've got to loosen up and release whatever they got going on.
Yeah. Divine perfection. It's the let's see. Okay, there was something interesting. I was watching an interview with Oprah yesterday, and she was talking about manifestation. And one of the things she was talking about was that you can want what you want. She doesn't even do a vision board anymore. She said she just knows what she wants, and she just lets it go and works on preparing and becoming the vibrational match for it. Now, from the way I see it is, I do things very similarly, or I try to. I think when you want something, there's a version of you that you have to be in order to get that something that you're wanting. Mm-hmm. And in order to get from where you are now to where you want to be, there's a growth that has to happen. There's an evolution that has to happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, get caught up in the word manifestation, and it just means, to me, it just means bringing it into your life by evolving into that space. Mm-hmm. So everybody can have a goal and a vision about what they want, but it takes time to become that version of yourself that can actually hold that energy. Because that thing that you want, you think you want it, but can you handle it? If it was here today, would you be able to handle it?
Exactly.
So we have to trust that everything in its process. There's, the moon takes its cycles, seasons takes its cycles for a reason. Because if you had it all today, you would destroy it.
Well, it's kind of like, when you're in a traffic jam. And now I don't get bent out of shape when I'm in a traffic jam.
I don't either. Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I wasn't that person ahead of me who was in that accident that caused the delay. So,
how many people have been saved by being in a traffic jam? They were angry at it, only to realize that when they got back, had they not been in it, they would have been. Yeah. So I just trust. If things are slowing me down, I just trust.
One of the things,
there's a reason for it.
Exactly. And one of the things I've kind of trained myself to do is I don't really ask for too much anymore. I mean, I do occasionally, but for the most part, I basically will affirm what I want. So I might say, I'm just so grateful that you're bringing me the perfect number of clients this week in the perfect timing for me. Mm-hmm. And if that means no clients, I know that that's perfection.
That's interesting, because you were saying, the perfect number of clients. And immediately my mind's like, yeah, but perfect could be 3. But and again, we have to catch where we flick into our minds.
Right.
We have to catch into that, because 3 may be exactly what we need for that week.
But 0 could be what we need too.
0 could be what we need too.
Yeah.
But I think our mind goes, yeah, but I know I need this. Right. Because this, again, our logical mind is very analytical, very practical. It says A plus B equals C. And if we don't have A plus B, then C can't happen. And then what happens? We go into a panic mode. Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about right now is our logical minds in society says we need to be one way. But I think instinctively we know there's another way we need to live. Mm-hmm. And I think the push and pull that we have is in trusting that instinct versus what we've always known.
The other thing too, I find through my own experience is that if you really want to walk your path, if you really want to know what your purpose is, you have to surrender and trust. Stop trying to drive the bus. Right? Just give it up. Throw the keys up, toss it up, give it up. Right?
Yeah.
That's the only way, you know, and I believe that although it's a little further down our list of things to talk about, gratitude is such a big deal. I mean, it has such a huge component to how you go through this. If you can be grateful for every moment that you have, you know, I mean, I know that sounds, if you can be grateful for the fact that you can take a deep breath of air, many can't. You can get out of bed in the morning and put your feet on the floor. Be grateful for that because many can't, you know. You can be grateful for the smallest things that are so much larger to somebody else. Right?
Oh yeah, because again, everybody has a different journey.
That's right.
You know, other people are having totally different challenges. Other people are living in other parts of other parts of the world in different countries where they don't even get what you have.
Right.
And you have to remember that, you know, the fact you're fortunate that you are on this journey that you are on.
So
you know, we have to take it back a little bit. And again, it helps. And the reason I say this is because I feel like it helps us when we're dealing with our mind, because it really, the struggle that we're having is in our mind.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, it's not necessarily what's going on right in front of you, it's what you think about what's going on in front of you. That's where the real struggle is.
But if you can kind of release and let go and surrender and just trust in the process, the ego is the one that messes you up. The ego is the one that creates the fear, the poverty, the aggression, the whatever negative feeling you can feel. Spirit doesn't create negativity.
No.
Spirit
it doesn't. Exactly. It doesn't exist.
Last week I was out there and I was trying to get the lights on the Christmas tree and I was not in my ho-ho place. So pissed off because they were all tangled up. They're all nuts. I actually took the scissors and cut them out. I had this little miniature Christmas tree and I couldn't get them going. I was hauling and yanking. My husband looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm about to cut off the Christmas tree lights." He said, "Okay." Because I had scissors in my hand, so it was probably a good idea to step away from the crazy woman. But then afterwards I calmed down and I went, you know what? There's lots of people that don't have Christmas lights, for Pete's sakes. You know, like be grateful that you have Christmas lights. You know, it's the simple things. It's the simple things.
It's so easy to get caught up in that. And there's something about this holiday season. I've been doing this since at least Halloween. Just taking a step back from, you know, I think it's built in us that we need to be rushing around, pushing. The holidays have to look a certain way. We have to give people cards and gifts, and it's so much frantic energy. But taking a step back and going, you know, I don't need to do it all at once.
Yeah.
I don't even need to do it if I don't feel like I need to do it, and I need to give myself permission to not even do it if I don't want to. And then again, there comes that self-compassion of just. Right. It's okay to feel how you feel. If you don't feel like doing it, if you don't feel like you're in the mood, it's okay. Give yourself that, you know, that permission.
And if you're setting up these unrealistic expectations for yourself, maybe a little bit of forgiveness would go a long way.
Oh, a whole lot of forgiveness, which is our second point. Yeah. We have to forgive ourselves. Again, it comes with self-compassion a little bit more, just forgiving ourselves for the guilt that we feel, forgiving ourselves for forgiving yourself for not doing things the way everybody else does them.
Right.
Because this whole point of just trusting the process, trusting the flow and going with the flow, it is not how everybody else lives.
Well, there's nobody like you, right?
Yeah.
You're not like anybody else.
Yeah.
Our DNA is different. So we're all supposed to be somewhat different, but not separate.
No, and that's true. But what I think I'm referring to is consciously choosing to take it a little slower and trusting the process is, you may feel that that's the right to do it. You know, you may feel like, especially let's say talk about the holiday season, you may feel like taking it completely slow and doing very little and keeping it very simple. But you're going to have other people around you that are like, no, you can't do that. Or why are you doing that? And forgiving them and forgiving yourself for choosing that you want to do something.
You know, I had an experience last night that caused me to have to step back and forgive myself because I was getting a little bit of hysteria. We had a girls' party here. We have one every year. It's a Christmas party. And it's always, you know, a lot of fun because we have the karaoke machine out and everybody gets playing a little foolish and whatnot. All the old gals, like 65, 70 years old, they want to karaoke hardcore, right? Like, they're so funny to watch. But for whatever reason, when the gal brought the karaoke machine, the adapter that would attach it to the TV was missing. And she said, oh, well, last year you just took it out and you put it in that drawer. I said, I know that's where I did put it, but it's not there right now. And I was losing my mind, right? Because everybody was there, because everybody wanted to karaoke and everybody wanted to have a good time. I was tearing through the garage. I was ripping through the house trying to find it. I was so angry. I couldn't find this thing and just so frustrated because I felt like I was going to let everybody down. We'd build this as such a fun time. But you know, it was kind of magical how it all worked out, because everybody kind of contributed, and somebody brought out the iPad, somebody brought up lyrics, and somebody else brought out, you know, the microphones and stuff. And somehow it was a pretty lame karaoke attempt, but everybody had a part to play in it. Instead of just squashing it and saying, okay, that's it, that's done kind of thing, we allowed everybody to kind of play a part in the process. You know what, this is the way it was supposed to run. This is the way it was supposed to roll out. And it was a great time, right?
Yeah, well, and what was I going to say? There's magic in that.
There was absolute magic.
There's magic in just, I think when we're trying to hold it so tight, I think we're holding on to our ego agenda.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And it's that agenda of I know what's right. I know what I want. I know it's how it's supposed to be, but just letting that go, and allowing things to come as they come and be as they be, it loosens it up for that magic to appear into your life.
Well, that's the thing, right? I had an expectation in my head of how this was supposed to roll out, but you know what? There's not a single person in that room that had the same expectation that I did.
Yeah. And how did you feel? See, that's the other question we come into is, how do you feel one versus the other? One is striving and especially like in life or in career, it's striving and pushing. And you know it's an ego agenda of yours when you're feeling like crap, when you're feeling like you're pushing. Exactly. But when it's just flowing naturally and you don't use that much energy and it's just beautiful and magical, I think it just has so much more meaning, you know? That's what memories are for too, you know, just letting it go.
Absolutely.
I think we keep going back to letting it go. But you know that I've heard that song twice today. So let it go is apparently the theme of it.
I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So letting go and surrendering. And just surrendering to understand that there is perfection in the process. I mean, how many times have you, oh my gosh, you know, I had a client that I was talking to not that long ago, and she was a flight attendant, and she'd been called. She was called in the morning of her flight, her scheduled flight, and they said, well, would you mind giving up your shift today, because, you know, so-and-so, the other flight attendant, it's her birthday, and she wanted to fly to New York that day. She wanted to meet her family. The family had a nice gift for her and stuff. And would you mind giving up your shift? And she thought about it. And she thought, well, I could cause a stink about it, but no, I'll just let it go. It kind of disrupts my day a little bit, but what the heck? It's her birthday. We'll just let it go. So she let it go. And it turned out that this was the day of 9/11. And it was the day that she would have been in the airplane that was right behind the airplane that hit the tower. So she said, you know, that would have completely, I mean, it messed all of us up anyway. She said, can you imagine how messed up I would have been if I was in the air that day? Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, she chose not to create a stink about it. She chose to gracefully just let it flow and just let it roll out the way it was supposed to roll out. I mean, everybody was okay on that second airplane. But still, like she said, I just had to trust, and things rolled out in a divine way.
Yeah. Divine. Yeah. There's divine protection and divine perfection as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just again, I don't think we had it on here as one of our, because we were talking about the different feelings that you feel with, but trust is one of the big ones that come up. Just trusting.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. Another.
And intuition. We all have intuition, but we all have an ego. And when the ego gets bigger than the intuition, then we're in trouble.
Oh, they say, you know, Wayne Dyer said something about ego being edging God out.
Yes.
And I believe that absolutely, 100%. Yeah. If you are so focused on what you're wanting and really pushing towards that agenda, you're definitely not listening to your intuition. You're definitely not hearing the higher power. And how many times have we done something really foolish because we've been trying to push and strive and make something happen? How many mistakes have we made trying to make it happen a certain way?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, you and I were talking about this before we got on. I was telling you that I sort of made this discovery that I have a tendency to look at the ground when I walk. And I can remember years and years and years ago when I would be walking down my road and I was, I would put out my gratitudes as I always do. And then I would ask for whatever it is I needed. And at that time I was trying to really leave my corporate job and work more so in this work. And I would be just begging and pleading and just, oh, please, can you just do something for me? Can you really help me make this happen kind of thing? And I, honest to God, I can remember doing a face plant on the road. I felt two hands behind me just go poof, like that, threw me to the ground. And I remember looking up going, really? Was that really necessary? But I remember thinking at the time, I'm not grateful for what they've given me. Right?
Oh, yes.
I wasn't being grateful for what they're already giving me. And they're like, you know what? If you start saying, thank you for what it is you got, maybe we'd send you a little bit more, but you're not grateful for what you have. So quit asking.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I had to remember this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, human like everybody else. And so I go through these little funks and I had to remind myself, have you not been given everything that you need?
Exactly.
Do you not have everything you need right now in this moment?
Yeah.
Do you not have everything you need? And having that gratitude to just remember, you really do. You really are taken care of. Think back in your life. How many times have you really been taken care of?
Yeah.
But again, there's that mind that tries to tell us that it's not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, it really does boil down to letting go, surrendering, whoever your God is, let God, surrender, let go, let God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I try to sort of affirm things rather than ask for things, because affirmations also include gratitude, Oh,
yeah.
I always start my affirmations with, I am so grateful that. Every single one of them. I am so grateful that you're bringing me the perfect, insert here, in the perfect timing for me.
Exactly. And I think we have to also remember that we don't know what's going on in the background.
No.
We're only seeing what's going on in our two eyes, in front of our two eyes. But you have to trust that there's a universal power that sees all and is all and knows all. Yeah. And we have to trust it. There's something bigger to life than the illusion of the reality that we see.
They've got the bird's eye view.
They got the bird's eye view. So why trust ourselves, right? Literally. Yeah. So why should we trust our own knowing? We don't know if the thing that we're wanting to make happen, we can't physically make it happen. We're pleading and praying for it, but we don't know if the other person who's involved in it, or if there's two other people involved in it, the things that have to happen before that happens.
Well, there's a timing, right? There's timing.
There's timing.
So many things have to happen. If you really, really want a job, for example, the job isn't likely going to happen until the person who's sitting in the chair that you want gets fired or chooses to promoted or whatever. And that's why I always end my affirmations with, in the perfect timing for me. Because why would you want to be put into a situation before the perfect timing for you?
Oh my gosh. Because how many times have we been in a situation that we pushed to happen and it was a terrible situation? It didn't go the way at all that you're wanting it to go. Yeah. Because, again, it was our own ego agenda. Yeah. And I think, long story short, but how to deal with the process of just being in process is just remembering that there's a cyclical nature to life, and things take time.
And that's, again, taking it back to numerology, it's what I find so fascinating about numerology is when we look at a chart, not only can I see how a person is likely going to respond to events in their lives. There are some numbers that just, the 5, for example, will let things just roll off their backs, where the 4 is like, I don't think so. And they want more control, and the 1s want to be the leaders all the time, and that, so on and so forth. So we can look at that, but there's so many cycles. There's long-term cycles, there's pinnacles, there's life path periods, there's essences, all kinds of information that we can see in a numerology chart that will tell us how we're going to go through it. For example, I look at how your birth name affects your personal year. So we're all about to flip into, as we're filming this video, we're about to flip into January of 2019. So each one of us is flipping into a new energetic year. But that's one part of it. That's one component to it. But your birth name will tell us how you're going to go through that, right? So there's so much information. And it's not just numerology. You can see that in astrological charts as well. I'm sure there's other divination methods too. But it's a map. You're looking at your soul's contract. You wrote it. That's the whole thing. So you have to trust that the way things are rolling out, even the big lessons, even the obstacles, even the really difficult times, you wrote it. You put it in there. You said, bring it on, right? So
letting go of perfection is another one.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Letting go of perfection is another one. And I'm going to say I'm going to give a little behind the scenes here in this interview. There's been so many things that have happened behind the scenes just in getting this video done, and even little things that have been happening behind the scenes over here, that sometimes you'd just have to let go of wanting things to be a certain way and just let it be.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, there's like noise and different things going on in the background over here, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do. I just have to roll with it, because and this is something I talk about, I've talked about on my website several times, is sometimes the message is way more important than the mess.
Yes. Yeah.
And we have to realize that sometimes just the process, or just getting the message out, or just getting your work out there, is way more important than how it looks.
And don't you find that really it boils down to slowing down?
Slowing down, which is so hard to do in a society that says go, go, go.
I'm an Aries. We don't know slow. Right? You know that about me.
Yeah. And as a Gemini, I can be like going all over the place. Right?
Oh, good. Then that's your fault.
Oh, yeah. No, but you know, still at the same time, I wanted it to go my way. I want it to be the way that I want it to go, and just having to trust that
Yeah. So for anybody who's watching this today, you've got to know that Stefanie has an amazing blog. Okay, you got to check it out. It's on voiceadream.com. You can sign up for it. She sends a blog post out once a week. It will take you all of 30 seconds to read it, but your mind will be blown every time you do, because her insights are amazing. She waits until she channels the message, so it's true and it's pure and it's timely. And if you're tuning into it, it's because you're meant to, right? So I would really encourage you to look at that.
And I will tell you that the process of creating this website and doing this work that I do now as a visual artist, I had to give myself permission to let it come as it came.
Yes.
A lot of what I want to write about on my blog post and my blog is about the process of creating and becoming who you're meant to becoming. Yeah. You know, for me, it's an artist, but if you're not an artist, it still applies to you.
Well, one of the things that you've helped me to do over the last year was to get into my own skin, and to be able to lose sort of that corporate image that I always had to hide behind, because I was afraid that people wouldn't take me seriously, you know, because I came from a corporate background, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I felt that I had to create this corporate image and take numerology up a notch kind of thing, so it would look more professional and all that sort of thing. And now I realize that was a mask, you know, that I was wearing, to hide my own insecurities. And I think, you know, I was afraid people weren't going to take me seriously. I wasn't taking myself seriously. So now that I've been able to take the mask off, and the whole website's been redone, and it just reflects very much who I am, man, does it ever feel better. It just feels 100% better.
And we have to let go of what we think it looks like, you know, because again, for me, the hardest part of me getting back into being an artist was just in what I thought an artist was.
Yes.
Or I thought how it needed to be, you know, same thing with photography. How do I think it needs to be, when it's like, no, something else is calling inside of me to go this way. And again, trusting it. I have to say this with this topic of process, it's a lot about letting go, a lot about surrendering, but also a lot of self-compassion.
Absolutely.
A lot of permission, giving yourself the permission for it to take as long as it's going to take.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really not about what we think, is it?
No, it's really not. It's really not. Because are we all here to live our lives the way, you know, the way that we think it needs to go, or are we all here in existence because there's a part that we play? And I think that we need to remember that there's a part that we play. There's a reason we're here in this time, and there's perfection in that.
There is perfection in that. And we have to remember that if we can believe that for ourselves, if we can believe that we're in divine perfection, right now as we stand here, we live and breathe with a pulse, the person sitting next to you is going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Right? Or they're witnessing you doing this, and you're going to give them permission to do it as well.
Right. Exactly. So we have to understand that each one of us is on a separate journey, that sometimes we meet in the middle, but I think if we can just show compassion for one another, that we're exactly where we need to be. And there's something, you know, if something's put in front of you that's a challenge, you're meant to learn something from that person, and that is going to be your greatest gift. I guarantee.
Absolutely. There's no obstacles, just opportunities. That's right. Absolutely. For one. And for two, sometimes we forget that even if we're having a hard time, people are still watching us.
Yeah.
And maybe you're going to give them some strength for when they go through it. Because again, you're not the only one who's going to be going through these processes. I'm slowing down now, and another person's speeding up. Yeah. But there's going to come a day where it's going to flip. And we have a poem that I think speaks perfectly to this process.
Let's finish up with that.
You want to finish up with that poem? Do you want to read that?
Oh, no,
or do you want me to read it?
You read it because you found it.
You want me to read it? Okay. All right. So this is from Wayne Dyer. And he's quoted it in one of his videos a long time ago. And I think it was just perfect to talk about, surrendering into the moment. So it's, do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time to be safe, a time to be in danger. The master sees these things as they are without trying to control them. He lets them go their own way and resides in the center of the circle. And that's from Lu Tao.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. And I think it's just really important. That's another thing. Just really staying in the center of who you are and allowing things to happen around you.
Exactly.
And there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah. There's a reason for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I love doing these little talks, and we started the year with this one, and it really feels great to end the year with one.
Yeah, so absolutely. Awesome. Absolutely. And there'll be more.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Definitely more. So everybody, you want to check out Stefanie at voiceofdream.com. She's got a great website there, so you want to check it out. And, I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel because I'm really trying to make 10,000 subscribers. It's a little selfish goal that I have, but I really want to make it by the end of December. So if you appreciate what we do, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe. And I just look forward to seeing you all in the next video.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks now. Bye-bye.